Welcome back, friends, to another sort of Convallaria video. Today we're talking about the inventory system. We're talking about upgrading weapons and upgrading trinkets, when you should do it, what your thoughts should be around it, and how to be more efficient in your approach so that you don't accidentally waste a lot of these finite resources that really do come by very infrequently as you get later into the game. We'll also talk a bit about where to get these resources, places to farm gear, but we won't go too in depth into things like the tarot system or engravings. We'll save that for another video. So let's dive into the game here. And let's get right into our inventory. Now, for those that are new to sort of Convallaria, let me cover a couple things just in brief so that you are caught up onto the different rarities, stars, and things of that nature. So first off, there are multiple rarities. You're going to get blue level gear. Those are your more common. You can get some gold epics and you can get some legendaries. And if we think about the lifespan of the game, really what you're gunning for is to eventually have a full suite of characters, multiple characters with 5-star legendary gear for their weapons and their trinkets, or some really powerful epic trinkets, because there are some that have some really good effects, but you're not going to start that way. And to get there, it's going to cost you a lot of resources. And let's talk a bit about the resources that you use to upgrade this gear. Now, if you're one of our veterans to the series or a veteran to the game, go ahead and check the timestamp, skip ahead to the tips and tricks. This is the kind of primer to get people ready. So for those that aren't as familiar with the system, you have levels and you have star ranks. Your levels can go from 1 to 60. And every single 10 levels, you have to use ores to break through on your gear to be able to bring it up to another level. So for example, if I were to go to this Starry Sky Heritage and enhance it, you'll see I have to break through and use some ores to push it to where I can then level it up to level 50. So right now this weapon is capped at level 40 because I have not done the breakthrough on it. So level the weapon to go from 1 to say 10 or higher. In that same enhanced piece, you press this plus and you go up as many as 10 levels for where you're at. So you have to break through again. You get added stats, but it costs you Elysium coin and it costs you powder. Pretty basic, pretty straightforward to understand, thankfully. And I don't think that you'll be confused necessarily by this as you go through the game, but it's important to know that you do have resources that it takes to keep leveling these things. And we're going to talk about resources here in our first tip in a moment. The other thing you can do is you can increase star level. You increase star level by consuming duplicates. As an example, you can see I've got 2 of these beheading machetes. And if I were to go into one of these, I can gear star level up, and if I didn't have it locked, I could add this here. Now it's locked, so it's not going to let me. And if I were to consume it, it would cost a little bit of gold, and it would increase my secondary effect of the weapon. So here you'll see that my current star level gives me, when attacking from Highland, attack increases by 6%. When I add my next star, that 6% goes to 8%. And each star level just basically enhances the value a little bit more. Some of these weapons have amazing secondaries that are great for certain characters. Other ones, not as good. So pay attention to those secondary effects before you go consuming your duplicates. And for our newer friends, the last little thing here before I dive into the tips is don't waste your epics. Don't feel like because they're not legendary, they're not good. First of all, you're going to use them for a while until you start getting legendaries. And then when you get legendaries, there's no guarantee it's the one you want anyways. So you may have them for a while. Matter of fact, my coal sitting on a gold right now. And that's one of my main used units. And some of these have really powerful secondary effects. In particular, a lot of the trinkets. So you'll see I've got a level 5-star spring tonic. This is an instant heal for 45% HP. There's a lot of situations where that comes in useful. Or one of my favorite golds is I've got this disaster bottle. A lot of people like this one, where it inflicts a random level 2 attribute debuff on the enemy. So I just basically toss it over. They get some debuffs. It's great on boss fights, things like that. So don't assume because it's not of legendary quality that it's useless. You're going to use those golds a lot longer than you think you are. All right, so let's get into the details of the upgrading system in terms of resources. If you skipped ahead in the timestamps, welcome back. I'm glad you're here. And what I want to do is actually pull up a quick spreadsheet that I made. Let me switch my view here. And here we are, the most beautiful spreadsheet you have ever laid your eyes on. I know it, you don't even have to put it in the comments, but if you want to, go for it. And so what I've done is up to level 50 of an item, I have captured how much dust it took, how much coin it took, the stats it gave me, the whole 9 yards. The reason I couldn't push this to 60 is because I am not level 4 or level 50 on my account, and so I can't go to 60, but I do have some of that captured from, various Reddit posts and stuff like that. So the first few levels of any particular weapon is not that expensive. It's not going to break the bank for you to go to level 10, level 20, even really level 30. And what I'm looking at here, just to orientate you a bit, column B here, dust total, gold total. That is the cumulative amount as you go up in the levels. Same as if you hold that plus button down in the GUI within the game, it's going to be the same numbers. This was done on a trinket. You're going to have the same cost as far as I can tell on other items. What will be different is how many stats you get in the different stat categories, but it's all relatively about the same. You get roughly the same amount of total stats as you go up. And so again, up to level 10, not a big deal. I don't know how many weapons you'd keep at level 10, so this is probably fairly irrelevant, but just know that you're not breaking the bank early on. Now, as you push through, something to really start appreciating, and this is going to matter when you're getting close to 50 and really going to matter when you're pushing from 50 to 60 on an item, is you're only getting a couple stats every time you press that plus level up button. So for example, if I am going to level 15 from 14, I'm going to get 3 physical attack, 3 magic attack, not actually getting any defense, but on the other levels I get 1, and 5 HP. If I go all the way down towards the bottom of this, you're going to see that if I go from 45, or to get to 45 from 44, 3 of each attacks, 1 of each defense, 6 HP. I'm not getting 30, 40, 50 stats per incremental increase in level. I'm getting a handful of stats. Much like compounding interest, if you're into finance, it's not the one level gain that matters. It's the total cumulative gain over a long spread of levels, okay? And why is that important? That's important because, yeah, I don't care about 125 dust to go from, level 2 to level 3. I do care heavily about 11,000 dust for, what is this, a total of 14 stat points. So if I am starting to feel the pressure, if I'm starting to feel the squeeze of my resources running low, of my dust running low, of my coin running low, whatever it might be, I might not press a level button from 41 all the way to 50. I may sit back and ask myself, am I really going to have that much more value in this particular weapon or this particular trinket for the amount that I have to invest? Because if I look at this, to go from 41 to 50 is going to cost me a total of 42,000 dust. It's a chunk. It's a good amount. If I go back to the game here in a minute, you'll see how much I have, but it's somewhere in the neighborhood of a little bit over 200,000. And I've done most of the content. I have a couple stages in the Fool's Journey to do for the treasures. I have a couple of the tower stages left to do, but I'm definitely not slacking on content, and I'm not overdoing it on equipment either. You'll notice when I go back to my inventory. Now, what's interesting, and I'm going to give credit over here to a Reddit user, Parking Bid, who posted this screenshot. This is what it takes, and I think I actually need to, hold on, let me get my face out of here. This is what it takes to go from just level 59 to 60, not from 50 to 60, 59 to 60. It is 50,000 dust, 40,000 coin. That's a ton. Now, it's the biggest increment, and maybe they do that just to signify you're getting over the final hump. But at the end of the day, it's a lot. And you're not getting enough to do that on a lot of items frequently. Matter of fact, if I go to my final table down here, it's going to show you exactly what it's going to cost you. A lot of us are probably early game getting to level 30. 25,000 dust, 20,000 coin, not too terrible. You need some ores, but at that stage, early on, you have a few. To get to 40, it would take you 52,000 dust, 42,000 gold. And if you look at level 50, and this is the total to go from level 1 to 50, it's almost double what it costs you to go from level 1 to 40. It's 94,000. It's getting close to that double mark. 1 to 60, 263,000. almost 264 actually. That's a lot, and it's over 200,000 coin. And so as you start getting to the higher levels of your gear, you need to think about, would I rather spend another 4,000 dust getting 3 attack, or would I rather get another item all the way up to, say, that would be almost level 20, right? And especially when you start hitting that account level 50 and you're going up to level 60, really think about those higher 50s, your 56, 57, 58, 59, 60, whatever. Are you spending tens of thousands of dust, 50,000 dust to go from 59 to 60 for 3 stats on attack, very few stats on defense and stuff? And I don't have the full stat breakdown right here, but is it worth those couple of stat points, or is it worth a whole nother level 40 item? Just about a couple thousand shy. This resource is limited. I want you to think about it every time you press that plus button when you're upgrading your gear. Now, the exception I will give you to that, and let me switch back to the game while I'm talking about this here, is if it's your favorite character. In these kinds of games, I'm going to tell you right now, I will always fully increase my favorite character, and I will have no remorse for it. I'm going to do it every single time. Magnus has a level 50 axe. I like Magnus. He's got a level 50 jacket on. He's got a level 50 tarot. And when it gets to level 60, he's getting upgraded. Why? Because I like the character. Now, I may pause him at 59 for a minute just to catch other people up, but eventually he is going to get to 60. Same with Gloria. Gloria, not just because she's a meta unit, a tier 0, whatever have you. It's just I pulled on her because she's my favorite. She's going to get fully upgraded. But you are not going to have the resources to upgrade every single character to level 60 in your first couple of months. It's just not going to happen. It's something that you're going to strive to over time. So my first tip, as we just kind of talked about, is really treat those resources, that powder and such, with a lot of respect. Really think about, is it better to keep pushing this up to level 60, or should I hang back and level up a couple other items to kind of spread that power across my whole team instead of another maybe 15 stat points in total on one character? I think in a lot of cases, especially when you're debating close to that 60 mark, you're going to find spreading that power is probably better for you. So that's tip number 1. Tip number 2, you're going to notice in my inventory, a lot of my stuff isn't combined. Now, some of it will be eventually, but I want you to treat your combinations, your upgrading star levels, as a choice, not a mandate. If I look at, for example, this newborn blade, I have at present 5% increased HP, grants bonus of physical attack equal to 4% HP at the start of battle. If I were to enhance this and add the star level, yes, I get a couple extra stats, but the secondary effect is 1% more of the physical attack equal to my HP. It's not like, a 30% boost in power. Now, again, I do get some attribute points. And so on some key weapons, some key items, you may not want to combine them right away. You might want to spread the wealth across your team. So for example, I'm going to show you where I actually do this. Magnus has a 2-star Mystery Guardian. It's one of the better cloaks for him, or whatever you want to call it. Has a decent secondary effect, so forth and so on. Mytha is currently rocking a level 40 version of the same thing. And the reason I do this is there's plenty of maps where I see a lot of characters that they have advantage over, and I might actually bring both of them. And if I'm bringing both of them, they both need to be equipped. Now, I could put a gold item on Mytha, I could take this off and throw it on her or whatever, and that'd be perfectly fine. But at this stage of the game, with how few trinkets I have, it makes better sense for me to spread the wealth. Now, there will likely come a day that I cannibalize these across. But for now, it makes sense for my account to do this. And that's the thing, is you have to make the choice for your account. We're going to have different characters. We're going to have different legendaries. We're going to have different epics, although epics come a lot easier. And so I can't tell you to never combine these or to always combine these or whatever the case is, but I can tell you that it warrants a moment of pause from you to, again, look at your account and say, I really want to push Tower, or I really want to push Fool's Journey, or I want to do the weapon trials. And what makes more sense to you at that time, to add a star level or to spread the wealth? I can't tell you the decision for you, but I can tell you should think about it each time. In other cases, I do combine things. You'll see a couple stars on here. And something I do a lot is I will keep one extra duplicate copy, and the next time I pull it, it gets fed in. So for example, if I were to pull another pendant halberd from a mission reward or something, I would put that right into Glorious, and then she'd be at 3-star. Other times I may finally make the decision and just say, you know what, I'm not going to run a bunch more spear users or whatever. And so I can go ahead and take care of this weapon and give it to her. Think about characters you want to pull. Think about characters if you did accidentally pull, maybe just from a pity or something, that you would want to build. And if you need a weapon, think about keeping a weapon in reserve. So that's tip number 2. Tip number 3 is don't assume your goals are terrible. You're going to notice down here, my coal, and again, I've cleared most of the content. I'm in the mid 8s, I think, for the tower. My coal is rocking a level 40 ceremonial knife because A, I like the 20% crit. B, I don't really have a better weapon for her, right? There's other ones that are debatable, but definitely get a lot of value out of the 20% crit. And something I think a lot of people don't notice is the stat differences on a weapon that's level 40 legendary and a weapon that's level 40 gold but fully leveled are very close. And so what I mean by that is, let's come down here. I need to find 2 that I can compare against for you. So I've got this this newborn blade. It's level 40. It has 291 attack and it's at 2 stars. If I come down here, oh, that's level 1. I've got a dueling dagger, level 40, 5 stars, because honestly, you can see I even have extra copies. This was not a hard thing to 5-star. 277, and we'll say 534 on HP, and again, going up here, 553. Not a huge stat difference. Now for Mytha, in this particular example, I happen to like the passive effect or the secondary effect of the dueling dagger more than what's on the newborn blade. And so if this was higher stars, those stat differences may add up to be enough for me to care. But at the moment, I actually prefer this gold level 40 at 5 stars than I do this legendary level 40 at 2 stars. So don't trash your golds just because they're golds, just because they're epics, just because you pulled a legendary. I have another sword right here, the Swift Sword, which, yeah, I could level this up, but again, if I were to compare that effect against what Mytha already has, I'm going to come out better on this dueling dagger. And so keep an eye on your golds. Chances are by the time you start getting a good stable of legendaries, you also have a good stable of 5-star epic weapons, and a lot of those have good effects. It's particularly true on the trinkets. There's a couple that myself and I'm sure others use quite frequently. For example, I've got the Spring Tonic, instantly heals 45% HP. That's solid. I can send that to somebody who's going to be away from a healer and keep them alive. Or I know Lava's love the Disaster Bottle, where I can toss this out on an enemy and give them debuffs. So even though it's not a legendary, it's still a really good weapon. And I don't think I've been in too many situations where I'm like, oh, if that had X% more attributes because it was legendary, I would have beat the stage. It doesn't really happen. And that brings me to our next tip. You don't have to rush the leveling. I think a lot of people get trapped by the, oh, I can go to level 50. Let me go straight to level 50. And they don't need to. They're beating content just fine. I rocked a level 30 coat on Mytha forever. This is only recently upgraded. Same thing down here. This level 30 ink totem I had on my angel until, I don't know, 2 or 3 days ago. It was very recently that I pulled this reorganized cube for her. And I did that because this particular item has a healing effect increased by 7%. And so it was great as a healer item. She could put that on and be more efficient at her job. And again, it wasn't until I pulled something legendary that was better that I even switched her, but it wasn't even level 40. And the reason being is I was clearing content fine. Again, if I go back to my account here, if I jump on the voyage, you're going to see tower, I'm sitting at 8.3. And the only reason I'm not higher is honestly I just haven't had time. It's been a busy week for me. But I'm in the mid 8s. I don't think that's bad for where I'm at on my account. And I'm not having a ton of difficulty with, if I had 2 more stat points, 3 more stat points, getting over the hump. In Fool's Journey, I finished the new chapter 8. The only thing I've left is a couple of the treasure stages, and everything is 3-starred. And so if I were to go through my list here, everything is done, fully star collected, everything else. I've not had a chance to go back and do the hard stages. I freely admit that, and have a couple treasures left to get. But otherwise, cranking through the content, not really having trouble, but having plenty of fun. And so why am I going to spend all of my powder making everyone's gear level 50, making everyone's trinkets level 50, etc., when I'm doing just fine? Why not save that? And let's even look at what I have. So I currently have, I have 225,000 of the radiant powder. If we were to go back to a spreadsheet, you would see just how quickly that goes away if I just leveled up maybe 3 more items. It'd be gone, right? As a matter of fact, it's I think it was 94,000 maybe to get to level 50. And so I can take 2 more items from 1 to 50, or a couple, combinations in between of 40 to 50 and a couple 1 to 40s or whatever. But again, I don't need it. So don't feel the rush to make something level 60 when you hit 50, or make something, level 50 when you hit account level 40 if you don't need to. I'll tell you the couple of times that I did do it is when I was working on the weapon trials. And where I'm at now is weapon trial 3, I've cleared through stage 8. And the other 2 I've cleared through 7. And there's a couple times when I've gotten through it and I said, I could have hit the churn count, or I could have finished the boss if I took a little bit less damage, or I had a little bit more damage output. And that's when I looked at the team I was using for that and said, you know what? Your weapon's still level 30. Let's bring it up to 40. Or, hey, you know what? I did get that new legendary. Let's bring that up to 50 because I'm going to keep it on you forever because that's what I'm looking for my character. And so in those situations where I could tell that power spike would get me over that content hump that I'm failing on, that's when I make the decision to upgrade that item. So overall, don't feel that you have to do it just because you have the item. You would rather have the dust later when it matters than to have a level 50 item that's maybe saving you a turn at best at a given stage. And so finally, the last tip I really want to talk about today is focus on events. With how limited this dust is, there's a lot of good ways to get it from our current content. Now, depending on when you watch this video, there's probably other events going on, but I'm going to show you an example. We've got this Elysium Feast. And if I were to come in here and check the shop, you're going to notice I've already bought it, but they had, and I forget how many attempts it was, but so many times you could buy this 20,000 dust. And it was a super cheap reward. And so I think it was literally the second or third thing that I bought from the shop. And then I went into like the ores and stuff. I got like the weapons, and then I went straight for the dust. So definitely grab it when it's in the events. And even if you have time limited events, I would say it's worth jumping into. I'm going to see if they had any here. There's probably dust and stuff in some of these other limited ones that I've already finished. And just go through your event list. Make sure you're clearing out all of these different shops, all these different unlocks before it expires. Speaking of shops, something else to look forward to is in the exchange, not the money shop, though you can spend money. In the exchange, you've got a couple places you can get dust on a regular basis. First being reputation. So you'll see that my reputation tab here refreshes in 7 days. I don't know how long it is typically, but I bought all the radiant powder. I bought the ores, got the bond charm too. And so you can come in here every so often when this refreshes, use your reputation that you're getting from your guild and that you're getting from the friends list, and pump that into powder. Same thing with insignia. So insignia you get from the tower. In here you can actually get legendary weapons and trinkets, but then you can also get dust, and I'll be clearing this out soon enough. And same thing, it refreshes on a cadence every so often. You can get dust from actually buying within different packs. I'm not going to cover the cash shop. If you have cash and you want to spend it on it, feel free. Nothing wrong with that. And then the final place to really pay attention to, and I'm going to recommend, is when you do your dailies and you're clearing out your daily quests, do come into the Radiant Forging. Clear this as far as you can go so you get the best value for your energy, and then, get your extra reward every day. Don't skip it. This, I do all of them, but this one I would particularly recommend because you are going to get powder, you are going to get ores of various types as you get up in the levels, and I'm sure there's even more in the next two. I haven't unlocked them yet. And so make sure, your final tip, that wherever powder can be acquired, you are making that a priority. It's worth it. Again, you saw that chart. If you wanted to go from 59 to 60 to finalize a weapon, you're going to spend 50,000 powder. It's just not common enough to justify skipping it. The other special mention, I guess, is maybe the cornucopia. I did finally buy the secondary track, and I'll tell you what did it for me was the powder. The gems, the Luxite, whatever, and the trinkets were nice. I haven't even opened the cornucopia weapon yet, to be honest with you, but these extra powders throughout this track, that's what really sold me here. Not telling you to spend money, but I want to be transparent on what I've done to get it. That's the only money I've spent that actually gives me powder. So that's it. To sum it up with a nice little bow, powder is rare. Think about when you use it. Think about where you use it. Don't just throw it around because you have it. Don't just upgrade every weapon because it's legendary. Not all legendaries are great. They all are good stat sticks. They don't all have good secondary effects. Don't neglect your golds. I don't know that I would push a gold to level 60 unless it just has an amazing effect. However, for a long time, you're likely to use them. And as I showed earlier, your golds are oftentimes going to be on par with your legendaries because they have higher stars. Your stars are easier to get on your epics than they are on your legendaries unless you just have crazy luck with a particular item. So don't neglect them. Make sure that you use them when they make sense for your characters. 3, don't just assume that you have to upgrade your stars. If you have 2 legendaries and they're both good legendaries and you have 2 different characters that can use them and they're in your party often, maybe spread the wealth. Maybe don't put everything into one item. Eventually there's another tower coming, and from my understanding of it, you have 2 teams of 6. So where you're used to currently running teams of 4 to 6 on your content, you're going to eventually need content for 12. And so if you've put everything and all your stars into one item, you may not have enough to outfit both parties. So I think at least until that content comes out in global and we see exactly what's going on there, I would maybe tell you to use caution before just putting everything into one item and giving it a 5-star to get incremental gains when you could have had 2 really good items for 2 different teams on 2 different characters. And finally, just make sure you're getting your rewards. Find your events, go to your reputation shops. It's easy to forget. So try to remember to click on your friends list and get your gifts and whatnot. Give your gifts as well. Do your guild content if you're in one. If not, why not? Go join one. And make sure you get those rewards because they're going to come in handy and you're going to be thankful you had them later on down the road. So that's it. Some tips, some thoughts on what I believe you should be doing with your gear. Again, it's expensive. So I hope this was of help for you. If it was, would love a like and a subscribe. Getting close to that 1,000 mark. Would love to see if we can cross that milestone 1,000 subscriber base. And my friends, until the next time, enjoy the game, and I'll see you in the next video.